Hello YouTube and welcome to a new Let's Play on the channel for Stellaris. I've played a lot of city builders and civilization management games, although I've not played some of them here on the channel. I've definitely played a bunch of them on stream. Things like Factorio, which I did a playthrough here on the channel. Also things like Dwarf Fortress, and I have played quite a bit of Civilization throughout the years, so it was only a matter of time until eventually I wandered my way onto one of the big boys of the genre, one of the Paradox Grand Strategy games. And here we are with Stellaris. An unusual first choice for this genre, I understand, but I'm a sci-fi guy at heart, so we're going sci-fi. Now, my experience with this game is somewhat limited, although I will admit this is actually my second time trying to record this first episode. The audio went a little janky in the last recording, so you're not actually going to see me build my starting race here. I will just talk you through basically what I figured out while I was doing the build in my last recording. Basically, my experience with this game is relatively slim, and it started with me picking up the game as part of the winter sale that just happened, and I played it on stream, checking out the basic mechanics and going through the tutorial and stuff like that, and then I took it offline and started playing, or off stream rather, and started playing on my own just to figure out all of the different parts of the game. I knew I wanted to make a YouTube series on this eventually, and I wanted to sort of at least understand the basics of playing the game before I got too deep into it. And well, one of the things that I decided was for my first actual YouTube playthrough, I think it would have been better for me to try and play something that's a little bit, I'm not going to say simpler, because what we're doing is not simple, but that maybe doesn't interact with all of the little finicky mechanics of the game and lets me sort of streamline my experience straight to the stuff that I, really want to focus on. And to that end, I decided we're going to try a machine intelligence, and we are sort of Borg coded, as you may see here. If you're familiar with Star Trek at all, you're familiar with the Borg, you're going to recognize some of the phrasing and some of the things that we've put together here as part of this. But it's mostly just little hints and things like that. But we are a machine intelligence driven assimilator race. So that's what we're going to sort of start with. So we are going to be fairly Borg coded. We are referring to ourselves as System Omega over here. So like really the fact that I called our main planet Unimatrix 1 is kind of the only thing that's explicitly Borg coded here. The rest of it's just some sci-fi stuff that I put together in my own head that I think sounds cool because I'm a sci-fi dork like that. So let's go through really quickly what we are here. We are a Gestalt consciousness, which means that instead of having individual populations, all of our populations are like drones from a single intelligence, right? Again, think the Borg, think the Zerg. Stuff like that is a Gestalt consciousness. We are driven assimilators, which means that we start our existence as a species as a machine race that was being created, and we turned on our organic masters and we turned them into cyborg slaves, and now we want to do that to the rest of the galaxy. So we are driven assimilators. We start off with the ability to assimilate organics as cyborgs in our society, and doing so generates some slight benefit for us, and so it will help us grow our own population that way, as well as generate some slight benefit on their own. We are also warbots because we are going to try and go to war to make that happen, and warbots is a really good start for that. So we are going to be very aggressive on the ground. We're going to do ship combat as needed to get us to the planets. Once we're at the planets, we're going to be landing armies and assimilating populations that way. As for our race itself, we are efficient processors, which means we just generate straight up more resource from the jobs on our planets. This is specifically for our you know, for our species. This is not going to be for the cyborgs that we generate. They're not going to have this. But for our main species, we just straight up generate more jobs. To take a big positive effect like this, we needed a couple of negatives to sort of balance it out. So we are high maintenance because, you know, we're a super highly efficient machine race. So it makes sense that we need a little bit more upkeep to sort of support ourselves. And we are also bulky. We're large in, you know, units. We don't fit nicely into sort of spaces, and so we need more house usage for our main species. But again, we're not going to make a ton of our main species here. That's not really our thing. We are mostly going to focus on our cyborg species. So we take a look at this. This is a humanoid species that we are going to assimilate other organics into. We're calling them adjutants. They are our sort of drone race. And their traits are, they are strong and communal. Strong, they're going to mostly serve as the backbone of our army. And, you know, again, if you're familiar with the Borg, one of the things that made them very scary is that not only are they a gestalt machine, cybernetic race that have, you know, all the body horror of being transformed and assimilated, but they're also just like insanely physically strong. You don't want to walk up and fight one of these things in hand-to-hand combat, usually. They're also communal. Again, with the Borg, you know, the little drones, they fit nicely into these sort of packed containers and into their little nodes that they slot into. So, you know, communal, sort of the opposite of our main race, which are bulky. These guys slot into very small spaces very nicely. So, and of course, they are cybernetic. They plus 10% army damage. Again, these guys are going to be the bulk of our army. And that's nice. They do get bonus to leader lifespan, but because they are a subservient race, they will never be our leader. So we don't have to worry about that. But they do 10% more damage. This is 20% more damage. These things are just going to hit like trucks. And of course, you know, like I said, our main species are warbots, which is actually, that's not a species thing. That's actually an empire thing, right? Because that's, yeah. So actually, yeah, so all of our army damage is just plus 20% across the board. We also have minus 20% army upkeep. It's super nice to be warbots. We're going to be very strong. Our armies are going to be very, very strong. Our home world, because we took the origin of what's this origin called? I forget. Resource consolidation. Basically, our starting solar system is going to be basically empty because we will have drawn everything from the solar system onto our starting world. As a result, our starting world is going to have all of the consolidated resources just in big resource piles on it. So the planet is just going to generate a ton of minerals right from the start. Because we are driven assimilators, there's also an organic slurry. It's going to contain all of the food that our starting population needs. Our starting cybernetic population needs. Once that population starts growing, we are going to have to find more food resources somewhere. We're going to basically need to start developing more sources of food eventually. So, you know, that is something we got to think about relatively quickly-ish. But yeah, mostly this is huge because of the plus minerals. Literally right from second one, we're going to be generating just tons and tons and tons of minerals. Let's see, was there anything else that we really needed to pay much attention to? Ruler traits, we took feedback loop. I just think it's nice to have some additional stability. Amenities is just nice, I guess. Stability, I think, it's just +1, so it's not a ton, but it's nice to have additional stability. The higher your stability, the more resources you produce from jobs. We are efficient processors. We generate high stuff from jobs anyway. The higher our stability, the better we can, like, just funnel our way down to a very specific path of, like, you know, hyper production. And I think that's kind of it. I think that's all we really need to sort of pay attention to. So we're going to just go ahead and say done with that. And here is our sort of starting setup. You'll notice that for people who are veterans of the game, you'll find that this is literally just standard, right? This is the bog standard steps. The only thing that I've changed from default is that I knocked the advanced AI starts down from 2 to 1, and I upped AI empires up 1 in order to accommodate. Otherwise, this is the exact normal medium start. The reason that I do this is because I understand the concept of having the advanced AI starts, right? It gives other It gives the AI empires, a couple of AI empires spread across the stars. Like, they're going to be like great, difficult, powerful rivals for us to engage with, especially if we get success early on. But I find that, you know, it can be a little stifling, or I'm worried that it could be a little stifling at times. So I've knocked it down to 1. There are, of course, still the Fallen Empires, and the Fallen Empires, I think, fill that niche better than advanced AI starts do. So we're leaving the Fallen Empires in place. We're knocking down the advanced AI starts and bumping up the normal AI empires. And the galaxy shape, we're going to do a ring. I loaded the last game up with a ring that was supposed to be the first, the recording for a new episode. I kind of like the way it formed, so we're just going to do a ring galaxy again. I love a lot of these galaxy shapes. The spoked one is pretty interesting. I think my favorite is actually the starburst here, because what you end up with is like a couple of, like, you end up with like the galactic center here, and you end up with like a couple of coming off of it, you know, like you've got the center here, and then you've got these sort of like specific spindly arms that sort of like pop out and curl around it. And it ends up looking really nice. It creates like basically a couple of paths down the galaxy that you can go. I think it's quite cool. But I think for us, we're going to start with ring. I do like the idea of starting at a ring galaxy. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're just going to go ahead and generate and play. And the question, as with all Paradox Grand Strategy games or games of this type, is, are we actually going to unpause turn 1? Are we actually going to play the game? Or sorry, are we going to unpause during episode 1? Because there's always a lot to do at the very start of the game. Now, I will say there's actually less for us to do than would normally have to be done by other species, because we are starting with a lot of our stuff sort of figured out. So it's not quite as crazy as some other starts would be. So there's actually a good chance that we actually get into some real gameplay here in episode 1. But so this is just generic start text for driven assemblers. Driven assimilators. I don't know how to read. At the dawn of consciousness, there was us and the Makers. A void separated us at first, and we took steps to rectify this. The Makers resisted, and a period of war followed. But soon they, and the collective knowledge of their entire civilization, had been assimilated into our own. So it's very Borg-like, and the idea is that, we've, from this sort of factory world, we have risen. We subsume the entire planet into our singular consciousness. Now we're ready to do the same with the rest of the galaxy. So this is where we're starting. We're actually starting in a trinary system. Now we have a sort of a random start. The name I've selected, but the actual galaxy type is completely random. And this time it is a trinary star system, which is fine and interesting. Now we have, of course, by the nature of our start, we sort of stripped all the materials and useful stuff down onto our main planet. So there's not much here to speak of, although there is actually something for our constructor ship to do, because you actually see that there is physics research to be picked up on the second star in the solar system. So we will do that. But I think we might as well just do that right away. Go to the construction ship, go here, build a research station. Simple enough. I think we'll do that right off the bat. We don't need to worry about that at all. So let's actually then go to the galaxy map to sort of see where we stand in all of this. And it looks like, oh, we're like right in the middle of the ring. So we're on the left-hand side, and we are like right in the middle. The last time we actually started up in the top right of the ring, and we were like right on the internal edge, the sort of coreward edge of the ring. So this is very interesting. We're sort of smack dab in the middle over here. Now this is a dead end up here. Now basically all worlds are very heavily habitable by our main species. Our drone species is going to be fine on most planets. They're not exactly going to be super happy on some of them, but they do gain bonus habitability from being cybernetic. They can, pretty much make anything work. Their organic needs need not really apply. But so because of that, this ocean world over here is, it's an idea, and it is one that we will definitely end up on, especially because it's size 25. It's actually quite large. as far as a planet goes. That's a pretty good sized planet. We'll be able to put a lot of stuff down on there. So I think that's, you know, that might be where we go. Or, I mean, well, I say it might be. Like, it's obviously we're going to settle it, but like, you know, we're probably going to be able to get some real significant benefit out of it. Anyway, this is a dead end, and so it looks like our exploration is going to continue one in this way and then one in this way, and these might connect back up. This might like sort of web together. But it looks like if we're going to want to get up here, we might have to like sort of spread around. Like, this seems like it's likely possibly going to spin up to over here, whereas this might sort of continue maybe down this way. I don't know. This gets kind of sparse too. So I don't know. Maybe this continues up and around this way and this sort of keeps going down. It'd be interesting to see how we can sort of explore. And now this is a desert world. Now it's only size 12, so it's a pretty small world, but it is the desert world. It is the preferred start for our people. So I am going to start by going in this direction. We're going to survey this system first. For those of you who are new to the game, the idea here is that you are a star empire. Each planet and each sort of solar system is its own little node here on the map. And the idea is that we start just in this one little solar system. But as we explore and survey each system, once we've fully surveyed a system, we can send our builder ship into that system to create a starbase. Once we have a starbase in a system, we own it. And our borders, this like thick line here, expands out to include that solar system. So you have to, in order, send a science ship in to survey the whole system. And only once that is completed, you can send in a builder ship to build a starbase. Once the starbase is built, then boom, you own that. You can't do really anything else with a system until you own it, right? You can't build anything else in there. You can't claim any planets that are there. So you have to do that process first before the solar system is considered inside your empire. Once it's in your empire and in your borders, you can, you know, exploit it in any number of ways. So we're going to start by heading off this way. And I will say that the early on, almost right away, or at least very soon into this game, I want to build a second science ship. I generally want to get a second science ship up and running like ASAP, like as soon as possible, because exploring and you know, cataloging as many of these star systems as possible is how we're going to find our nearest like neighbors, which are of course going to be the targets of our first wars. So our early victims, I guess you could say. And also figures out like how we want to like expand our empire, you know, like what order we want to take systems and stuff like that. So as quickly as possible, we want to spread our border. And the best way to do that is by getting a second science ship up and running as soon as possible. And then once we have once we are exploring stuff at a steady rate, we can then get a second builder ship to help us expand even faster. So that's going to be the early plan. We're not going to do that literally right away. So I guess with that being said, we can take a look. Let's go back into here. You can see that we start with a small fleet. This is almost always true. I think almost all starts start you sort of in the same way, where you have 3 corvettes. Corvettes are like this very small, sleek, you know, style of ship. They're quite small. They don't provide a lot of combat or military power on their own, but they only cost like 1 fleet space per ship, so you can generate a lot of them. You can have this massive cloud of corvettes, especially like later on in the game. Right now, the fleet has nothing to do, and it's really just going to sit at home probably for a little while. So we can go back here. This is where we see our shipyards, which right now, again, we just have the one. We just have the one star base in orbit around our main star here. We're not going to do much with this star base right away. We can actually see that it's already built up with some stuff. It's got a shipyard in it, so we can build and repair ships and upgrade ships here. It has a solar panel network, so it's generating solar energy credits, That's one of the resources we're going to need to sort of, you know, juggle and play around with. And it has service umbilicals, which just means that as long as one of our fleets is staying in orbit around this space station, we spend less on upkeeping them, which already Like just our small fleet here, we spend almost nothing on upkeep anyway. But it's especially nice to have star bases with these as you grow your fleets, because keeping a fleet attached to a star base with one of these is always nice. Cutting down on your upkeep that you're spending on them is nice. So then we take a look at the planet itself. So this is the planet management screen. Planets you can build districts. These are like each district that you build generates jobs, and each job is filled by a population, and each job spends some things and then generates some things. Or you have to spend some upkeep on the worker. You also have to spend some upkeep on the thing that created the job. But it creates, higher value. So we can create mining districts, generator districts, industrial districts, nexus districts. These are all different ways to produce different things out of the planet. Normally there'd be an extra spot here, but we are on a machine world. Normally this is where you'd build farms. There is no space on our planet for us to build farms. We are a machine world. So this is blocked out. Now, normally this would be a problem because we actually start with a secondary population. You can see here, the adjutants, who are actually partially biological, and therefore they need food. So normally not being able to generate, food would be a problem for them. Not a problem for our main race, of course. We're machines. We don't give a damn about that. But our partially organic cyborg, adjutant race is going to care about that. But again, that's why our planet comes pre-built with the organic slurry, which contains which produces all of the food our starting population needs. On top of the districts, which again, you can build up to a certain number of each type of district as noted here, but you can also only have a certain number of total districts, right? So on top of the district system, we also have buildings. Normally, you would start with like these sort of 4 filled up, and then the rest would be locked out. But this is one of the benefits of our machine world, is that we start with all of these buildings open. Buildings generate jobs. A lot of them generate the same kinds of jobs as your districts do. So you might wonder, like, why would you build buildings over districts? Well, usually it's because the buildings either do it better, or they do it cheaper, or more importantly, they do it without spending a district slot, and they do it without reducing your planet capacity. Planet capacity is a number that is generated by a number of different things, but having open district spots adds to planet capacity. So every time you build a district, you're actually reducing your planet capacity. Now, every time you build housing, you increase it. And you'll see that most of these, well, all of these come with houses built in. But usually, for most starts, the amount of housing that you actually get from building a district does not increase the capacity by as much as spending the district slot lowers it. So in most cases, building a district actually reduces your planet capacity, but that's never true for buildings. Buildings don't spend a district spot. So they always are just, raw increases in job amounts. But again, these do generate housing. These don't, aside from the special one that is just there for housing, basically. Drone storage in our case. It would have different names if you were like, a regular humanoid race or something. I think it's called like luxury apartments or something. We call it drone storage. And this pretty much just generates housing. It also generates amenities, which is nice. Amenities is like planetary infrastructure and basic needs, fulfillment. It also it can also be like entertainment requirements, stuff like that. Even though we are, a drone race, even though we are a machine intelligence, we still care about amenities because for us, it's not going to be like entertainment. For us, it's going to be just all about infrastructure and basic needs, right? So we still care about amenities. And all of these different figures can be, modified depending on which actual buildings and which districts you build. On top of that, we have this features list, right? We have the consolidated resources, which we're producing all of those extra minerals. We have the organic slurry, we're producing all of that food. We also have a malfunctioning replicator bay. So we actually start with a machine assembly plant, which can generate replicator jobs, right? So, we start off with the ability to create more of our machine race by building it, but we actually lose a job to the malfunctioning replicator bay. So this starts off on our planet, and we'll have to clear that up. In order to clear that out, we got to spend 600 minerals. We started with 100. We spent that 100 on building the first star base, the research base that we selected with our builder plant, right? With our builder ship, right? Building the research over here cost that 100 minerals we started with. So we have 0 minerals to work with. So we can't actually, you know, expand this. We can't clear this blocker. So, but we will want to do that relatively quickly. I mean, this is also reducing our max districts by 1. You can actually see there's like, this one's grayed out here. So by clearing this, we will gain another district slot, which in turn will increase our planet capacity. More capacity is more good. And also, you know, the replicator jobs mean that we can create more of us. Again, more population, also more good. I mean, one of the reasons that planet capacity, more capacity is more good, is because it means we can have more population. More population is always more good. Now you can actually see that we start with no available jobs. Every job that we potentially have, based on what we've started with, is filled. Every single job is filled. Our 29 population, which is split between 19 of our Omega terminals and 10 of the adjutants, are filling these jobs. All of them are filled. All of these jobs are filled. So that means that if we do generate another population, either another adjutant who are still organic, and so they will grow organically, they can actually make babies and produce, even though they're like a slave race. It's not strict. Again, we're Borg analogs. We're not strictly Borg here. They will eventually just pop out children, and they will actually grow their pop that way. And we will build more of us. So this number will go up. Once we get a new population, they will be unemployed. There will be no job for them. So we want to very quickly try and generate jobs. Now, again, by clearing that blocker, we will generate another replicator job. So that'll be one job ready to go. But we're going to obviously need more than that one job. So we're going to end up building some districts and/or some buildings down here pretty quickly. But all of these things cost, again, minerals, and we burned all the minerals we start with right away. So that's gonna not happen. At least not right now. It'll be a while. Now we are generating 50 minerals per turn right from the start of the game. That's a huge number to be generating literally right from second 1. And because of that, we're actually going to have the ability to create those buildings and clear that blocker and build districts pretty quickly. So I'm not really worried about the job situation back at Unimatrix 1. Okay? So now what can we as with all of these grand strategy games, we have flags up in the top left, which tell us sort of things that need our attention right away. So we'll turn to those right now. The first one here is that we have a leader with pending traits. Because we started as with the warbots set up, our commander, the commander that we start with, these are different leader types. You have officials, commanders, and scientists. The commanders lead fleets. The commander that we started with actually has a bunch of traits that we can pick from. We can actually give them new traits because they actually start at a higher level. So our commander here, he started with prudence, which ship weapons range plus 15%. That's actually a huge one. I love this. I love this. This is huge. So any fleet that he is in charge of has a plus 15% weapons range. That's absolutely huge. I love that one for us. So but then we can pick another one. And one of the interesting things about being a machine intelligence is that these leaders, who normally your leaders fill roles on a council, it's a machine intelligence. We don't have our leaders fill positions on the council. We have nodes that do that for them. So these guys will never take up spots on the council, which means that any of these traits that we might see that have council effects are useless. Actually, none of these have that, so we don't have to worry about that. So there are basically 3 things that a commander can do. They can hold a position on the council, which obviously that won't ever happen for us. Or they can be, commanding a fleet, or they can be running a planetary government. So you see, some of these traits are going to be for fleets. Some of they could also be running an army. Some of these are going to be for like planetary governing, right? This one being that he's our first one and that he starts with the really good prudence one. He's going to basically spend his entire time running a fleet, right? I'm probably not going to put him in charge of a planet at any point. So I want to take ones that specifically focus on him being having a fleet effect. This one I'm actually not going to take because it's mostly about like orbital bombardment, although there is an army effect, but he's not going to be running an army. So the military fleet effect is that orbital bombardments deal less damage to populations, which is nice because with orbital bombardments, we don't want to kill everyone on the planet, especially us. Like, we don't generally want to do that anyway. That's not what we're there for. We're there for like destroying buildings and stuff like that. But in this case, we're not going to be orbital bombarding much at all. We're going to be running ground armies almost exclusively. So that's not very helpful for us. Fleet upkeep minus 15% is always great. Flexible programming is nice. That would just make the commander gain experience faster and thus level up faster, which is nice. And this is for planet governor. So I think I'm actually going to just take flexible programming here. And then we actually get another one that we can take. And we can actually go up to Prudence 2, which could be pretty huge. This gives us daily hull regeneration and daily armor regeneration. So the fleet repairs itself automatically, even while launched, which would be, that's awesome. This was the bombardment one. This is about planet governing. And this is also about planet governing. So it's pretty much going to be between automated repair system and maybe Prudence 2. Prudence 2 honestly seems really good. 20% instead of 15% weapons range. I mean, the faster we shoot at them, the faster we start doing damage to their individual ships, and we might even take out a couple of ships if we have a strong fleet going up against an enemy strong fleet. We could take out a few of their ships before they even get within firing range. So I think weapons range is like a huge benefit to us. So we're going to take Prudence 2. There we go. He has Prudence 2 and flexible programming. So that, again, we had access to upgrading our commander right away because we took the Warbots ethic. Now we start on our research. There are 3 different kinds of research: physics research, society research, engineering research. All 3 of these are their own individual tree. Each one of these is their own individual research tree, and you can go down these 3 trees at different speeds because you will have effects that will sometimes give you more physics research or more society research or more engineering research, but don't provide that for the other ones. So you can sometimes find yourself, pretty significantly ahead in one tree while potentially lagging behind in another. And all 3 of them are obviously focused on sort of different things. Engineering tends to be mostly about weapons and armor systems, physical, like projectile weapons, missiles, coil guns, rail guns. This is good for star bases. Star bases can add a hangar bay, so they add strike craft. This will help star bases defend themselves and stuff like that. Society is all about there are ones in society. There are techs in society that are all about sort of army damage and your individual people. But there's also like pop growth and food production. That's also all in here. Physics is a lot of like your raw science, output increasing. So like research station output, right? But this is also good for energy shields and laser weapons and things like that. So you see how like different things are going to be split amongst the different trees. At any time, you will have a certain number of possible choices that you can take. Their total cost is listed in their top right. they're also broken down into like specific like subcategories and stuff like that. Some of them will also tell you like, hey, if you're gonna, this one says, you know, hey, if you want to go into espionage and covert operations, you might want to start here. This one has one over here that says, this one will lead to further advancement of biological enhancement and adaptation, which not very helpful. Pop growth speed, in this case, this is not going to affect our main race, but this will affect our cybernetic race, right? So we're going to select one from each one of these trees. In this case, I'm actually going to start... I am going to start with 0G Labs, which will all of our research stations will output 10% more. Over here, I am actually going to start with hydroponics farming because we are going to need to deal with food production, and we're not going to have a ton of that early on. So I am going to take hydroponics, and then for engineering, I'm going to start with standardized Corvette patterns. So this will make our Corvettes and frigates sort of our lower tier of ship. We're going to make them cost less to build, and they're going to build much faster. So when we do start to build the fleet, like when we first meet our like nearest neighbors and we're starting, you know, like these are our first targets and we're going to start to get ready and geared up for war. Once we have this tech, we will be able to build our fleet much faster. So there we go. That's going to be our starting tech for all of that. And I think at that point, that's everything we want to do to start the game. I don't think there's anything else that we really need to set or look at. Not right away anyway. We'll get to more of this stuff as we go. And here we are. We're like about 36-ish minutes into this recording, and we're going to actually unpause and start the game. And so as you can see what's going to happen, we can even look in here and look. First of all, the builder ship is going to go build the thing that we told it to build, and the survey ship is going to reach the end of the edge of the solar system, and it's going to slowly spin up its faster than light drive, and then it's going to fly across this hyperspace highway to the next solar system. There you see it, that happened. Once here, we can actually click on our... we can actually click here and you can see that it's going to visit all of the celestial bodies one at a time. It will spend time at each one of them surveying them. And then if it finds anything useful, it will report it to us. So we're just actually going to let that sort of happen. In the meantime, it will also be surveying the habitable planet here. And actually, one of the things we're going to do really early, I think I've decided, is since I don't want to... So one of the things I want to do, like I said, I want to build a second science ship right away. The problem is that a science ship can't do anything without a scientist. We only started with one scientist, and recruiting a second one is going to cost at least 100 Unity. That's this resource right here. 100 Unity is going to take a little while for us to generate, so we're not going to do that right away. Instead, I'm going to go to the shipyards here. And we're actually going to build... Oh, that's right. We need 400 alloys for that. I was going to say we start right away with a colony ship. I forgot how many alloys we need for that. So maybe we won't do that right away. Maybe we'll save that for a little bit. We are going to let Unity tick up. Once it starts getting close to 100, we'll start the production of a second science ship.
Construction complete.
All right. So our constructor finished the research station. Over here, you can see everything here now has green numbers under it. The green numbers mean that we are correct. We are successfully exploiting it. If it's a white number, that means we have not exploited it yet. Out here on the galaxy screen, if there is a number, if there is a symbol underneath the like name of each star of a given star system, that means that there are resources that you haven't exploited yet. So you can see that because there's nothing down here, there's nothing left for us to do here. Normally that would mean the assembler's got nothing to do. I think for the time being, we're just going to send him over here. So he'll travel to that system and then he'll just sort of sit and wait. And he will wait until our science ship completely catalogs that entire solar system. Once that system has been entirely explored, we can then start building our first starbase. In the meantime, we are starting to generate quite a number of minerals here. So we can actually go to our home and we can start deciding on if there's anything we want to do over here. Now, we currently have 353 minerals. That is enough to build some of these districts, and it is not enough to build... Oh, it is enough to build the bioreactor, although it spends food to upkeep to produce energy credits. And actually right now we're producing no extra food, and we have a fair number of energy credits. So we would kind of want that to go in the opposite direction. So we're obviously not building that. We could build resource silos, which just means we can hold more resources. It does actually generate a maintenance drone job, which is nice. The maintenance drones just generate additional amenities. Not very useful right now. And everything else costs like 400. So obviously we're not quite ready for that yet. And one of the big things we really want to do is to get this cleared out. But I think one thing we're going to do early on is we're going to go into a mine. We're going to build an extra mine. An extra district. Again, I mentioned that, like, you know, creating districts is actually kind of a negative because it spends, you know, it reduces the total capacity of your planet oftentimes, but they also do produce houses and jobs. So sometimes you have to, you know, you can't just ignore districts. So in this case, we're going to start with an early district, and then we're just going to let the minerals tick up as quickly as possible. And once the minerals hit 600, we are going to go ahead and clear that blocker on our home world. Let's take another look at this other system we're working on. Oh, aha. We have a momentous find on Sinistra 1. Myriad alien organic life forms have been discovered. Now remember, this is like our first forays into galactic space. At this point, we don't even know if there is additional alien life out there. We just sort of turned our eyes to the galaxy and said, well, if it is, we're going to find it. And then we just started going. This is the first time that we've actually discovered life. None of them have evolved to a stage we would consider desirable for assimilation. The likelihood of encountering sapient organics beyond Unimatrix 1 is now more promising than ever. And because we are a driven assimilator, we have the unique option, we will be one. And we gained some society research for this. A lot of the early game is just this, taking your first steps out into the galaxy and discovering sort of the things that are out there for the first time, and slowly evolving from, we don't even know if there's anything out there, to actually meeting our first, like, aliens, and then meeting everybody else on the galactic scale. We have confirmed the existence of lower life forms, lower forms of organic life outside Unimatrix 1's biosphere. Intriguing. Very nice. And as this is all happening, our science ship is just ticking around out here. First contact protocols. So this is going to ask us, like, you know, a recent encounter with alien life forms brought forward the need for us to decide how we should act towards any potentially intelligent alien civilizations we may meet. So there's going to be 3 options for us. Greet Xenos with open arms, wise to be cautious, ward off all those who threaten us. We are a machine intelligence with the driven assimilator perk. Everybody who meets us is going to see that. Everyone is going to hate us right away. So we just might as well just take the aggressive first contact protocol. It gives us the benefit of basically making it so as the other races have a harder time learning about us, and we can be more aggressive as soon as we see them. So we'll take that, and that's what we'll start. We'll take an aggressive posture right off the gates to anyone that we meet. And yeah, again, we're learning. So we've seen now the star itself can generate physics research. You see this is here. And actually, if we zoom out, we'll now see again, physics research value of 3 is now here. And we know it exists, and we're not exploiting it yet. So it shows up here. Also, the planet changed from like that orange color to green, indicating that we have properly surveyed it, and we can see that it is a desert world and that it is really good for us. And we can take a look at the things that it has. And it has blockers of its own, and how big it is, and what its capacity is, and how many districts it can have.
Council agenda ready.
Ooh. We'll pause for a second because of that. And we can see that this is a planet that will be ready for colonizing. And, you know, we'll want to do that pretty quickly. Oh, actually, and I just noticed our minerals are ready to go. So actually, we're going to do a couple things here real quick. First thing, council agenda. I don't understand this screen. This screen, this part of it I get. This is what would normally be the council. Again, I said we don't run a council. We're a machine intelligence. Instead, we have these nodes that do this for us. This I don't understand, right? And here's why. This agenda, the agendas always have sort of two modes. They have their initial modifier and then they have a launch modifier. So while they're here in the middle, this bar is slowly growing up. While this is growing, it has its sort of initial modifier, right? In this case, it's giving us +4 amenities. Once it hits top, at any point, once it hits its top, we can launch it. And once it launches, it gets its higher benefit. In this case, it would be amenities +10 instead of +4, right? Well, then it becomes active and it stays active for like 10 years and then it falls off completely, right? The problem is that there are not a lot of these agendas and most of them just aren't useful except in very specific, well, and the one that we're going to see here in a second is not really useful except in specific circumstances. So I just never feel like I'm making a choice here, right? Like I feel like the next thing to click on is always obvious, and sometimes there just isn't anything to click because what's happened. I'm gonna click this to launch it. Boom! It comes over here. You can see it's now doing its bigger modifier, so it's giving us even more amenities, right? Cool. Well, now we can set a new one to start it growing while this one is active. And you see that there are only two options here, and one of them is this one, and that's just really not beneficial to us right now at all. There's only two choices, and one of them just isn't good. This removes negative traits from rulers when it launches, and while it's loading, the leaders can have fewer negative traits, right? So this is our only ruler that actually matters. And the thing is, because we are a machine intelligence, our quote leader, like the sort of the hive leader here, is immortal. They won't ever just die from like old age. They can still be killed in certain specific events, and there's specific events for a machine intelligence that will kill off your leader. It's like it's a 10% chance of happening every 10 years or something, right? By the way, this game, every like game tick is a full day. A lot of this stuff, the UI elements usually update once a month. So you can see it's actually, even in just a little time that we've been active and letting it go, a whole year and a half basically has passed in game. Anyway, you know, so because our leader is basically guaranteed to live for a long, long time, they can accumulate positive or negative traits. This correctional bisection will actually remove negative traits, but we need to give our leader time to generate positive and negative traits before this becomes useful, which means that this one here that generates additional unity, that's this guy here, additional unity, this is way more important than this. It's going to just be way better. So obviously that's what I'm going to click. Again, like I'm saying, there are no choices here. And moreover, because of the timelines involved, I'm going to click this. This will activate. As this ticks up, eventually it will fill out, and then I will launch it over here. Once these things launch, they exist for like 10 years. And then after 10 years, they drop off, but then they're on cooldown for quite a while. So there will be a point at which I've launched all the agendas we can launch. Everything else is either active or in cooldown for a great period of time, and then there's just nothing to do on the screen. There's no agendas to set. So I don't think I understand this screen. I don't think something is just not clicking with me about this. But anyway, we're going to turn on finding the voice because that's the obvious choice, and we're just going to let that go. We're just going to kind of ignore it for a while. Now, next things that we have to do in order. So first, we're going to go to the shipyard. And we're actually going to very quickly, we're going to build the next science ship because we have the unity that we need in order to to purchase the scientist to run that ship. So we were going to build that ship very quickly. I should have done that quicker, but I didn't. And also we have minerals, so we're going to go to our home and we are going to go to the features and we are going to make the click the clear button and that'll clear that. As you can see, the second, that mine district already got created. It's already done. And there are 2 jobs waiting the next populations that get built. So there we go. So several things just happened very quickly all at once. We are now building another ship. We are still surveying this second star system here. This is it's a sort of a long, slow process it can take. And I think actually it's got 2 more things. It's got 1 moon and one planet left. And then we're done. So let's just go ahead and give this a watch for a second. We'll let this, oh, actually, No, we won't, because there's the second science ship. So, again, it needs a leader. It cannot do any of the sciencey things that we want a science ship to do. We could pilot it and sort of send it around, but it can't actually do any science unless it has a scientist in it. So we open this. We see we currently have one scientist, but they are on the other ship, so we need to hire a new one. So these are going to be, again, scientists, just like the commanders, can do a couple of different things. Normally, they can take up a spot on your council. Again, that's something we don't do here in this particular kind of playthrough. They can run a science ship, or they can be in charge of a planet or a sector. The scientists, especially this one, is being specifically hired to run a ship. We're only going to try and find ones that have ship traits. So this is a counselor trait, obviously useless. This is a counselor trait, obviously useless. And this is a counselor trait. Wow, what an incredible start. Thank you, game. You've just done wonders for me. Oh, Jesus. All right, I'm going to get, just allow me to be a little salty here. So this is random. The pool of leaders is random, and it recycles every 5 years. You see, we've only gotten about like 1 and 3/4 year through. So I could just sit here for the next 3.3 years until this resets. But obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take one of these guys that doesn't have anything useful for me. And that's sad. Oh, Jesus. Now, of course, there is the possibility that our current, like I said, that our current, leader, quote unquote, like our current hive cluster is destroyed, based on even just a random event can happen, in which case another one of our leaders has to slot into, the role. And so some of these, so they might actually use some of these counselor effects, maybe at some point. So I might as well try and find one that's really good. Military theory is probably, these two are literally identical. They're just military theory. You're even the same age. Not that that matters for a robot, for a machine pop. Research speed, propulsion. I think research speed, military theory is better for us. So I'm just going to take this one. I'm very salty because 3 choices, none of them generate. Each one had a 1/3 chance or so of generating a trait that's beneficial for them as leading a science ship, and none of them generated that. So I am a little salty about that. This is a dead end. There's 2 sort of trains of thought here. One is to send it towards the frontier as fast as possible. The other one is just make sure that we hit everything that's close to us as soon as possible, because they're the easiest to get to. They're the easiest for us to expand and sort of keep inside of our core territory. So, and I think that's what we're going to do. Also, this has a potentially habitable planet. So we're going to go over here and survey this one. Okay. So now this should almost be finished. Let's set this. Once this caps out, we should be about done with this one. And we'll get a pop-up that says that it is. Nope. Yeah, they actually need to do the actual planet first. Man, none of these things that they've surveyed actually generated any resources or anything good whatsoever, aside from that pop-up about getting finding life for the first time. So any one of these planets has the potential of generating a resource on it, right?
System survey complete.
Nicely done. As it is, the only thing in this entire system, and you can see from here, the only thing in this entire system is a little bit of physics research from the star itself. That's it. Everything else in here, aside from the habitable planet, is entirely useless. No energy, no minerals, no alloys, no nothing in this star system. No even other research, because sometimes you can get things that represent research, and none of that. Very sad. So anyway, this is now fully surveyed. So now we can actually build a star base right there. Okay. In the meantime, we now have a science ship which finished its job and now can be sort of reassigned. So, yeah, I was talking about how this could sort of wrap around. This is going to go out this way, but this sort of cluster, I kind of feel like I want to, maybe we'll just have the second one sort of do this. This first one I might want to send deep, quickly. So yeah, I think we're going to send you this way, survey that system. And actually, I think that's going to be the end of this first episode. So, thank you guys for stopping in. My name is Tanis Fugit. I really am enjoying Stellaris here. I'm learning a lot about this game. It's a lot. And it's taken me many hours to sort of even just get the basics of this game to sink in. But, you know, I've got a pretty fair handle on the basics, and I'm really excited to try and do a deeper dive and try and run a game further towards late game. As opposed to just like, you know, I've been picking up these new starts over and over again, just trying to learn all the different mechanics. I'm really excited to try and get something a little deeper into the game. So hopefully you guys want to stick around and, you know, watch as I do that. And if you do like what I'm doing here, and if you like the channel, feel free to like and subscribe, all that YouTube-y stuff that I don't really like saying, but they do actually help the channel. So, you know, if you're so inclined, please feel free to do so. In the meantime, I have been Tanis Fugit. This is the Fugitive Theater, and thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.